Samba! Shouted someone in a loud voice. Beautiful ladies dressed in ethnic costumes were seen dancing around. The crowd went wild, asking the pretty ladies to take them. But the Doko brothers were confused about something. They wondered why the ladies here were wearing bikinis at an amusement park, and whether it was any fun for them. They totally didn't get it. Yuna could hear about what they were complaining about and told them to at least say it after turning their heads away from the pretty ladies. As Pietro was being hit on by some high school kids, Yuna was thinking deeply about the mission, recalling that their teacher said that this was the place they needed to be, but after looking around, she wasn't so sure on what to do. In a flashback, the teacher is seen giving a debrief to the team, explaining that the amusement park was where President Choi Soon-chang's son had been kidnapped. He reminds them that they needed to secure the hostage and take down the kidnapper, which sounded easy enough, but as Yuna looks at the amusement park map, she recounted that they only knew that the son had been last seen at Palin World, which brings the question of whether he was still alive and where he was. Even though they were at such a huge place, there were no clues for them to follow. Out of ideas herself, Yuna turns to Pietro, hoping that he would have some idea on what to do in this kind of situation itself. After all, Pietro always gave off the feeling that he knew everything. It turns out to be true as our boy tells Yuna that they needed to go somewhere else first. An employee is seen holding his hands together, apologizing about the fact that they could only get on this ride after they had made a reservation, and urges them to leave first. The Doko brothers didn't understand why they needed to book a ride before getting on it and started to pick a fight with the employee, threatening to leave some bad reviews. Other people from the amusement park were laughing at their situation as they could see that this was their first time at an amusement park. One of the random NPCs from the crowd mentions that they needed to first install the app in order to love the park even more. Pietro caught wind of this as he turned his head. Yuna was the one to download the app on her phone, informing the others that both the Atlantis and Haunted House were fully booked. The smaller Doko brother started to insult Yuna, asking her if she had come here to play and wasn't thinking about the mission at all, making him think that she wasn't cut out for this. But after some time, the same brothers who were making fun of Yuna were now enjoying themselves at the merry-go-round, smashing the horses they were on loudly and repeatedly while shouting "Giddy up Sebastian," while kids from the age of 7 were staring at them in disbelief. The Doko brothers even found some time to get a ride together on the bumper car event, cruising around the place at a fast speed while still leaving the little kids speechless as they watched grown men playing hard and fast. We now turn to Pietro and Yuna, who were at a shooting game. The person in charge tells them that this game was easy and that he was running the business at a loss over it. But in truth, the owner saw Pietro and Yuna as pushovers, thinking that they wouldn't be able to shoot down the targets at all and that this was free money to him. Especially since he rigged the game by making the targets heavier than usual. He was hoping for them to spend hundreds of dollars in order to try as much as they can. Once they do, the owner would be done for the day. Picking up the rifle to inspect it, Yuna commented that it had been such a long time since she held onto a fake gun. Within minutes, the two of them were simply victorious, leaving the game booth with its largest and most expensive prizes, leaving the owner stunned on the ground as he couldn't believe what just happened to him. The player got played. After winning the game, Pietro stood alone in the middle of the amusement park. Hearing the Doko brothers and Yuna having fun, they soon called out to him, asking him to come over to where they were. Looking at them with their balloons and rabbit ears, Pietro could see how excited they were. He figured that this was their actual first time at an amusement park, because they must have had the same childhood like him, where they were constantly forced to train or die. So looking at them being all happy, Pietro prayed that they have as much fun as they can right now. After all, they didn't know when they would be able to laugh like this again. After escaping from the boys, Yuna found herself a quiet bench to sit on and eat while questioning what they were doing as they didn't come here to play. But as she chewed on her food, a notification sound could be heard from her phone. Looking at it, it was the AirPods notification, telling her that President Choi Soon-chang's son's AirPods were close by and that she was able to get a signal from them. Which meant that where she was could be where the son had been kidnapped. Tracing the signal, Yuna found herself at a strange place. It turns out that the signal was coming from the women's restroom. As she opened the door to the women's bathroom, she thought that someone else might have picked up his AirPods or that it might be someone with the same name. Instead of waiting for the others, Yuna decided to head in alone by herself. Upon entering the toilet, there was another lady in uniform standing near the sink. Looking around the place, there was nothing unusual that Yuna could spot, but the signal was definitely coming from the female student in front of her. So she called out to her, thinking that she couldn't be mistaken and needed to ask the student politely with a smile. "Where did you get those AirPods?" said Yuna with a creepy smile on her face, causing the student to scream loudly as she faced her. The boyfriend of the student immediately rushes into the toilet, asking his girlfriend about what made her scream that loud. The female student told her huge boyfriend that Yuna suddenly appeared behind her and wanted to hit her. But this wasn't what she wanted to do at all. Not listening to Yuna's explanation, the boyfriend was ready to smack the shit out of her, believing his girlfriend that Yuna was both a hitter and pickpocketer. The boyfriend started to repeatedly push Yuna, who still manages to dodge his touches, while the girlfriend started to gaslight things, saying that all she needed was an apology. The boyfriend wanted the same, but only after a small beating, he said as he raised his hand towards Yuna, who saw it coming. Back at the boys, the Doko brothers were curious about where Yuna was, and figured that she was someplace eating again. They even asked Pietro if he knew where she was, but he didn't have a clue. Instead, he assures the brothers that they didn't need to worry about anything dangerous happening to her. Taking the huge lollipop from out of her mouth, Yuna uses a single arm on the big bully to leap high above him in a single motion before he could hit her. In another second, she had wrapped her arms and legs all over the huge bully, lucky guy. Going in for the kill, she uses the stick for her lollipop and aimed it directly towards the bully's ear. But at the very last moment, she stopped herself as this was something she did unconsciously. After showing the student couple that she wasn't a lady that they could mess with, she wanted to hear the truth from the girl now. Grabbing her face and pulling her close, Yuna questions the female student once again, who this time has tears in her eyes and was trembling in fear over where she had gotten those pair of AirPods. As usual, giving off the main character vibes, Pietro was just standing still and using his phone, but still managed to grab the attention of everyone around him, both male and female. Before long, Yuna rushes over to their side, screaming at them that she had found something. She informs them about how she had discovered the son's AirPods and that she had also found the place where he had lost them. Hearing that, Pietro realized that they both had discovered and thought about the same place. Looking around the amusement park, he explains to everyone that no matter where they went, there were always lots of people, so the only place where someone can easily disappear off was one that makes the behavior of being kidnapped look normal. It had to be a place where it was not strange for someone to scream or jump at someone. Pulling out his phone and the app, Pietro shows the reservation link for the haunted house ride, and the fact that it had been fully booked the whole day, but under his close observation, he noticed that no one had entered the place. With all the information and pieces in place, both Yuna and Pietro had discovered that the place they needed to go was the haunted house. Opening the door to the scary-looking haunted house, the Doko brothers were in serious mode. Telling the others that playtime was over and that they needed to focus up as they weren't sure about what was going to happen to them. They even tell Pietro and Yuna to follow them closely. But in truth, the brothers were behind them, even holding onto Yuna's shirt tightly and explaining that he was simply watching her back, even after claiming that he wanted to take the lead. As the brothers and Yuna were arguing with one another, Pietro felt that something was off about this place. As he scans the area, a single question pops into his mind: why weren't there any other people? Sensing that something was coming, he tells the others to get ready, making them wonder what he was talking about. Pietro warns them that their mission was starting as the place in front of them started to fill with gas. Seeing this happen, they wondered if they were going to be alright, while Pietro tells them that they were already halfway through the mission. Recalling the fact that the teacher had told them that their mission was to secure the hostage and defeat the kidnapper. Pietro knew from the beginning that in order to do that, their main mission was to get kidnapped first. The gas proved to be effective as the entire team was knocked out in seconds. The Doko bigger brother was the last one to remain conscious, but as his eyes started to close, he could see and hear the footsteps of someone walking towards them. "Stop!" shouted the teacher as the door to the classroom was ripped open. He entered the room in a panic, asking the student about how Pietro and the kids were, telling him to call them right now. As the student tried to call them, he informed the teacher that they weren't picking up his call. The teacher had finally realized that his mission of theirs wasn't a simple one. He mentions a single name, Park Sang-do, which causes the student to be shocked. It turns out that that name belongs to someone who was chosen as a disciple candidate. But then he got kicked out because Glory couldn't control him. But even after hearing that, the student was still chill, assuring the teacher that Pietro and the team weren't just a bunch of buffoons, and that they had learned everything they needed so nothing bad could happen to them. But the teacher was afraid, sweating bullets down his face, as he recalled who Sang-do was while holding onto his leg. The scene changes to a bunch of suitcases being formed up in a uniform fashion. Pietro and Yuna, who were seen tied up together, both completely knocked out. A man in a red apron approaches them, talking out loud that he had put them to sleep using chloroform, a drug that has been used constantly in movies all the time. But he also knew that with normal people, when they were knocked out with it, Then they would sleep with their mouths open. After hearing that, Yuna started to jerk in a panic. But at the school the student was shocked to see something as the teacher told him that they needed to stop Sang-do quickly. The teacher had revealed that his leg had been cut off by him, and that it wasn't the time to be shocked right now as they needed to save Pietro and his team. Back to Yuna, she slowly opened her eyes after realizing that she had been caught. The man in the apron wore a smile on his face as he reached out to her, while the teacher was afraid that Sang-do was going to cut off their legs as he did with his.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.